Hello, welcome to Guides to the Unknown. I'm Kristen.
I'm William.
How are you guys? How are you feeling? What's going on? Are you ready for us to tell you some tall tales?
We'll pause here for about 4 to 5 minutes so you can respond.
To hear your answer, and I'm not just looking for a fine. Actually tell me how you're doing. I'm asking.
It means something to us. We're back once again for another episode of Scary Stuff that we have researched. This show comes out every Friday on all major podcast apps. There's a YouTube version that you can watch on youtube.com/talkbomb.
That's right.
And it's on Spotify.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that you all know what this is.
Yeah, what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah. So basically, Kristen and I have researched separate topics from the world of horror, and we're going to share them with each other right now.
Okay, William, here I go.
Okay.
Do you know anything about the entity known as the Hat Man?
The Hat Man? Mm-hmm. I have never heard of the Hat Man once, I don't think.
Okay, well, that's insulting because I posted an article about the Hat Man on our own page a couple of weeks ago, and apparently you don't care.
Yeah, I unfollowed that junk.
Damn it. Okay, so the Hat Man kind of falls into the category of shadow people. Sort of figures that people have seen that show up that are, I guess, it seems like the main thing that joins shadow people together is the quality of darkness.
Yeah.
And of some sort of human-ish form.
Okay.
But the Hat Man is a little bit unique. And William, I have broken up my talk with you today into, I intended it for it to be the who, what, when, where, why, and how.
Okay.
Like when you're writing an article and you're supposed to cover all of those. I end up going with a lot of what's and who or something like that.
A lot of what's and oohs.
What's and yeah, I think it's all what's and a when.
Mine's mostly all huhs and
Eek. All right, so Will, here is what the what the Hat Man looks like. So he is.
I feel like I can picture it before you even say it.
You know what? What do you think the Hat Man looks like, just by the description?
Just by the description, a man wearing a hat.
Okay, and
perhaps a fedora or a top hat.
Yes, exactly that.
Perfect. But the fact that you said Shadow Man, it's the silhouette of that, and nothing more.
Could you have maybe brushed past that article and it lodged in your subconscious? Because it's weird that it's exactly a fedora or a top hat.
Or perhaps I had a subconscious encounter. I will say,
maybe.
Fedoras and top hats, I think, are the most cartoonishly recognizable kinds of hats, aside from like baseball caps, but those don't carry enough menace. So I'm going to go with fedora or top hat.
No, they don't at all. I forgot. There is a third hat that he's been seen in, which I was not familiar with. I had to Google it. And also I misheard what the person said who was describing them at first. I did research online, and then I also listened to a podcast called Truth Be Told that had a woman on named Heidi Hollis, who's done a lot of research on the Hat Man in particular.
Okay.
So she said that he's also been seen to wear a gaucho hat.
Gaucho? What's that?
So that apparently is a Southwestern cowboy hat. I can kind of picture it. It's like not a cowboy hat where there's a lot of like hills and valleys going on in it. It's like a flat hat with a flat brim, basically. I thought she said a gaucho pant when she said this on the podcast, and that made me laugh. And I was like, that really kind of takes the wind out of this guy's sails as far as scariness, because a gaucho pant is like a wide-legged pant that's like easy breezy and usually cropped.
Oh, really?
And I was like, wow, this guy must be very confident in his scariness if he's showing up in a gaucho pant.
I'm the hat and pants man. That's what I am.
Yeah. Like a palazzo pant, but shorter. So he wears that. Again, old-timey clothes. And by old-timey, again, I think we mean like back in the day somewhere. It wasn't specified.
Older or more, yeah.
Exactly. We were talking in the Guide to the Known Facebook group about that just a little bit, how there's like the descriptor of old-timey clothes. Like I used it last week when I was talking about elves, and how that's all very relative. So for kids, it could be like that he's wearing Umbros and an OP shirt, but that's probably not super scary.
Boots.
Yeah.
Yeah. And skinny jeans.
Old-timey. He's also sometimes carrying a gold pocket watch that he'll occasionally look at, which in the context of the other stuff, like a dork, in the context of the other stuff that I'm going to read to you about what he does, that's a little bit freaky to me, and I'll explain why.
Okay. It's funny that he's like a monster bad guy thing. Whatever. I mean, I don't know much about him yet, but like that
really
he's defined by his hat. Yeah. You know? Literally.
Well,
like, I wear many hats, but I mean very literally.
Yes.
Sometimes I feel like wearing a sombrero. Sometimes I feel like wearing a fedora.
Right. I have a wardrobe full of hats, but that is my thing. Just to be clear, hats are my thing, other shadow people. The other thing that distinguishes him from other shadow people is that he is solidly outlined. He's not like a dark shadow that you can kind of see through that's a little bit amorphous. He seems to be a solid person entity that's there.
Okay. I will also say that if you are trying to distinguish yourself from other shadow people, a hat is a really great tool to break up that silhouette.
Absolutely.
Because you can't wear like a t-shirt and have it really register that broadly.
No, the brim is going to cut right through that line.
Really, if you're trying to distinguish yourself from other shadow people, you've got maybe high heels and hats. Those are your two options.
Pretty much. I'm trying to think of any other
they're all cut
accessory.
in the same silhouette.
Yeah, basically. I guess like a really like thick bangle bracelet could do it.
Jinko jeans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even though shadows are very amorphous, the Jenkos could get lost in the shuffle, which is probably also why he doesn't wear a gaucho pant or a palazzo pant, because it's the same. Jenkos were just jean palazzos.
Okay.
That we pretended were cool.
Yeah. Oh, they were cool.
That we knew were cool. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So he's always tall, at a minimum like 6 feet tall, but most of the time like 8 to 10 feet tall when he appears to people, which also plays into some freakiness to me. And he's so tall basically that in most rooms that he appears in, he's kind of hunched over because the ceiling is too small for him.
Love it.
Which suits him just fine since ... I wrote to the what he does column. He usually comes to people in some phase of sleep. So it might be that they're about to fall asleep, they actually are asleep, or they're kind of coming out of it. But that's not 100% of the time. He's also been seen by people when they're awake. And he mostly just stares at you and freaks you out.
Ugh.
So that's where I think the pocket watch thing could be kind of freaky. Because if you're in bed and you're seeing this thing just staring at you, maybe occasionally looking at a watch like, all right, how long have I been here? Huh.
Well, it's like he's on his shift, right?
Yeah.
So he's like, all right, I got a few more hours of this ahead of me.
Basically.
Okay, back to it.
I think of him as like him being like, I've got all the time in the world. I can just sit here and stare at you and give off evil vibes all night long.
Is he expecting something of you?
No, he just wants to torture you, basically. He puts out apparently a super malicious presence where people have said that you can feel that this is just a totally evil thing who wants to harm you, but in most cases isn't doing anything, but just has this air of menace that keeps you freaked out.
Oh, okay.
And it's theorized that he might be putting off that scary vibe deliberately because it gets you to be scared. It produces fear in you, which he then feeds off. So he's kind of creating this like symbiotic relationship with fear and energy that keeps him going. And the way he watches is creepy and messed up because sometimes he bends over you while you sleep and is just looking at you. He must have to like bring his head back a little bit to make sure his hat doesn't fall on you.
Well, I guess I'm almost thinking of him as like rubbery or something. Like a living cartoon character. Like
I can see that.
Lloyd from Roger Rabbit. So when he bends to look over you, I don't picture somebody bending at the waist. I picture almost like his
a
entire
curved
body
thing.
curving forward to meet you. Yeah.
That's freaky. Well, he apparently is like pretty solid and almost like human-like. So I think he would just be bending like a person. He also, will sit in the corner and just be watching you, like I was saying. He's just like chilling, sitting back, being like, I know that I'm freaking you out like crazy now. Or, which is really awesome, and I don't understand why, watching you through the mirror.
Ooh.
So he might be where he can be looking into the mirror and looking at you, which is very freaky. But
plus, you'd have to like take a moment to realize he's there at that point.
Yeah, completely. You'd be like, "What am I looking
in the
at?"
mirror to look at your own reflection, then you might realize, like off to the side, like, "Oh God, he's there!"
Right,
the Hat Man.
The Hat Man, he's there.
Yeah,
I see that pork pie. He does occasionally violently attack people, though. He's mostly a watcher, but people have said that they've felt like physical, like hardcore attacks from him, which is really freaky. And then another difference between him and shadow people is that shadow people, when they go away, they apparently sort of like dissipate like smoke. They just sort of end up not being there. He is physically solid enough that he leaves and walks through the door. When he leaves, he's like, all right, I'm done here, and walks through your door. He either walks, or some people have said that he floats through the door, like glides.
Okay.
So when he appears, a lot of times he appears when people are having sleep paralysis. So they're just frozen watching this happen. And during sleep paralysis, he could be there just himself, or he has the ability to direct other shadow people. So there might be shadow people in the room as well, and he's being like, go do that.
Wow.
So like the old hag kind of thing that happens to people during sleep paralysis a lot, the shadow man might kind of direct the old hag. Like be in the corner watching, but be like, old hag, go sit on that person and freak them out.
By which you mean, like there was that whole thing of like,
yeah,
sleep paralysis is a person sitting on your chest,
right,
keeping you down. Yeah.
Right,
so he
exactly.
might be the reason why that's even happening.
Right.
Maybe the hat is almost his crown, right?
Oh, maybe.
Right, like he's the king of the shadow people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it could be. So when I posted that article about the Hat Man on our social media a couple of weeks ago, one of our listeners commented on it and was like, oh, I've seen the Hat Man before. This is, it's like terrible or whatever. So I got in contact with her and I asked her if she would mind just writing something real quick about her experience that I could share on the show when I talk about it.
Yeah.
And she did.
Cool.
So I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your name right. I looked it up, but Switty. Is the woman's name who wrote this. And so I just kind of excerpted what Switty wrote for the Shadow Man, Hat Man, Shadow Man-iest parts of it. So Switty said, I experienced sleep paralysis 3 times in my life and only saw the Hat Man once. It was a really scary experience. Everything felt so real and I was terrified. The first time I experienced it, I saw the Hat Man. It was that much scarier because I never experienced anything like this before, and I was absolutely sure that there was someone or something in my house. The first shock was when I couldn't move my body at all. The doors in my room were open, and there was a shadow figure standing in the front of my room with something that looked like a top hat on his head. It was a tall figure. It was just a shadow, no eyes or face, and yet it felt like it was staring directly into me. I opened my mouth and tried to scream for help, but there was no sound coming out of me. It was weird because I could hear myself screaming, but there was no sound, and I was aware that I had my mouth open. The shadow figure was just standing there. I tried to move and it felt like I was glued on the bed and my head was positioned in a way that I was staring at its face, quote unquote. I tried to turn away, but I couldn't move my head either. The shadow didn't move. It was just standing there watching me. In complete panic, I tried to move my legs and I couldn't. All this probably lasted a few moments, but I felt like I was lost in my own nightmare. I started feeling some tingling sensations in my toes and slowly managed to start moving them. It felt like someone left my whole body out of a tight grip, and right after that, the shadow disappeared. Another time, I was laying on my belly when I realized I couldn't move again. I felt there was someone walking on my bed above me. It felt like steps were going on both sides of my body. With each step, I felt like the bed moved under the weight of a foot. This time, I was kind of aware that I'm experiencing another episode like the previous one and tried to move my fingers to make a fist, and I think because of that, I was able to snap out of it much faster. So the idea of the Shadow Man, like what she was describing to me sounds like it was like a foot on either side of her, like he's walking on top of her, basically. Yeah. Super, super scary and really interesting to hear somebody we know kind of firsthand story. So thank you very much for that, sweetie.
Yeah,
Thank
you for sending that in.
When I reached out to her, she said like, oh, I just have to put my kids to bed and then I will rate this to you.
I'll tell you about the Hat Man.
Yeah,
the time I saw the Hat Man. Yeah, it's like, it's weird because I guess it's like an overpowering, putting you in your place almost kind of thing. Like, I can do this to you.
Yeah.
That's bizarre.
Right.
Yeah.
So like I said, it happens mostly when people are in some stage of sleep and or sleep paralysis, but it can happen anytime. It can happen in waking hours. And there have been some correlations between the Hat Man and people who are in turmoil. So almost like the poltergeist kind of thing where they seem to, that kind of activity happens to spring up around people who have like really emotional, not great stuff going on. It seems like in not all, but a lot of cases, that's when people see the Hat Man. And then there have also been near-death experiences reported where they came back and they said that they saw the Hat Man in their near-death experience, saying he was going to take them to hell.
Oh, God.
Yeah, totally. I read a book about near-death experiences, which was super, super interesting. It was called Glimpsing Heaven.
Yeah.
And it's mostly about people's positive near-death experiences, but they do touch on that and say that not everybody who's had a near-death experience came out and was like, oh, I feel so much better. Now I know there's something beyond that's really comforting. Some people come back and are like, haunted because they saw something terrible.
And it's also then like a countdown to being like, I'm going to have to see that again
Right.
someday.
Or it could be something of an Ebenezer Scrooge thing where you come back and you're like, well, if that's what's there for me, like maybe I need to change my path. I don't remember the specific instances. I remember if it was terrible people who had the near-death experiences that were bad exclusively. I don't think so. But interesting. Also, some people see him as early as like young childhood first, and then he continually comes back every once in a while, and they see the shadow. I keep saying that. The Hat Man, like here and there throughout their life. And then there's some people who just saw him once and it's just a one-off.
Yeah.
But one I'm sure they'd not soon want replicated.
For sure.
So, William, we're at the heading. What is the Hat Man?
Yeah, what up with that?
Okay, so at the very least, he's some sort of dark entity. No big surprise there. But what kind? There are some kind of questions and theories about it. Maybe he's some sort of interdimensional being. Just some sort of weird, scary thing that's out there that can kind of travel through different places.
Yeah.
Maybe he's a demon in the kind of literal and sort of churchy sense. Maybe he's the devil himself.
Oh.
And the reason that kind of came up was that there's a story or report of a German soldier who had seen the Hat Man. And he asked who the Hat Man was, and he said, Scratch.
Scratch. Old Scratch himself.
Old Scratch. And then the other reason that people might think that he's a demon or the devil is that in some cases, invoking Jesus' name gets him to go away.
Oh, really?
Yes, which is very specific and demon or devil oriented.
Yeah, yeah.
But the theory that I like the most / freaks me out the most is that the Hat Man is some sort of astral projection of a real person. So like some person who is projecting themselves to other people just to terrorize them and freak themselves out.
Right.
Freak them out.
This is my ability and my hobby.
Yeah, so just like a total psycho who gets themselves into the state to be able to astral project and doesn't do that for any sort of like maybe self-exploration reason or any good reason. They're like, oh, I've tapped into this ability to do this. I'm going to use this to go terrorize people around the world.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And really warped and weird.
Yes.
Like, I almost wonder, that almost feels like very whodunit-ish then. Because then, if that were the case, you could start to go like, well, then who is it?
Yeah.
How can we find them?
How can we find the Hat Man?
And I wonder if it's like, oh, there's a range on how far you can astral project. So you can be like...
You could isolate it to a certain area.
Yeah, so it'd be like the Hat Man is somewhere in a 10-mile radius.
Right.
Well, that doesn't narrow it down much at all, really. So it could be anywhere, and it could happen to anyone.
Well, you could also then track... if there were like, there was a bunch of Hat Man occurrences in this area and then that area. And then you find out that's like a traveling salesman.
Yeah. Oh,
who's been hitting it all around the world.
Yeah. I love that. Are there still traveling salesmen?
I think so. I think they just don't call it that.
Yeah.
But I think there are people who travel a lot for work who sell like software.
True.
I don't think there's somebody who has a suitcase full of like springs and stuff that he's selling to people, but... I think there are people who visit different corporations.
A headband with a toothbrush on it. Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Damn. Have you ever experienced sleep paralysis?
No.
I have not either, but I have had that dream where you like try to run and you can't.
Oh, totally.
As fast as you're running, you're not moving very far. And I've heard that that's tied to the fact that like your body is locked when you're in a dream state.
Oh, interesting.
So like you're not moving.
Yeah.
Like the idea of tossing and turning at night. That does happen, obviously. But like by and large, there's a point in dream state where your body is like shut down, frozen in place. And so when you're trying to run in a dream and you can't, it feels like you're running through like, molasses.
Yeah. Mud.
It's because you can't move your legs.
Ugh.
So like I've experienced that a bunch.
Yeah,
like,
I have too.
Having to fight someone, being in a position where you have to fight to get away, and every punch you throw is like trying to punch underwater when it's just like slow, and all the effort you put behind your fist still results in it moving like super slowly, so that it would just like dink against a demon's chin and not do any damage.
Where's a movie where that happens? It's somebody like throwing a crazy punch or doing something, and then it's just like a very teeny surface area that they hit, but it does the intended. Does that ring a bell?
The only thing I can think of is something that I think you would understand, and if you don't, I'll make you understand.
Oh,
it's from Batman Forever when Two-Face and the Riddler are robbing. jewelry places.
Yeah.
And the Riddler goes, Two-Face, show me how to punch a guy.
This guy steps right up to help him learn how to punch him.
Yep. Two-Face goes, make a fist, reach way back, and punch, whatever. And then the Riddler does it. He punches a security guard in the face who's just standing there and doesn't try to shield his face at all.
He basically slides into frame, too.
Yes.
Like, it is clearly a dummy. It literally slides.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
And then, Jim Carrey punches him, and it hurts his fist more than it hurts the guy. Very funny moment.
Very funny. I don't think that this is what I'm thinking of, but maybe. I just watched Scream 1, Scream 2, and Scream 3. What a great ride, mostly. And in Scream 3, Ghostface throws a knife at Dewey, which is stupid anyway, and then the knife just dicks Dewey in the head and he falls down.
Yeah,
which is funny.
The handle hits him in the face rather than the blade itself.
Right.
Yeah.
But, like, why would he throw, like, man, that best case scenario of the knife hitting Dewey in a way that causes a lot of damage is, like, those are slim odds.
Well, guess what?
What?
It worked out in Ghostface's favor, which is chilling.
Which is all he really needed, I guess.
Terrifying.
I've had dreams about me screaming and nothing comes out, like something is pursuing me that I'm running away from and I'm screaming for help and just nothing has come out. I have that more than, I mean, I don't have that a ton, but like I have that more than moving slowly or anything like that. Just that I'm screaming, trying to get help and I can't.
That's pretty horrifying.
It's terrible. I really hate those dreams.
That's like that Buffy episode, Hush.
Yeah. Where
the gentlemen float around the state.
The gentleman.
And they steal your voice and everything. Oh.
Yeah. Oh,
that's
so
pretty
good.
horrible.
Yeah.
Well, cool. The Hat Man.
Yeah. The Hat Man. Now we know.
The Hat Man. Mm-hmm. All right. If you've ever seen The Hat Man, you know what to do.
Yeah.
Just wait a while. It'll be fine.
And then yell Jesus at him, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Jesus.
Yeah.
I gotta get out of here.
That's enough. And then the Hat Man's like,
I gotta bail.
Floats through the door.
Must disappear. Must disappear.
Abort.
Yeah. Well, my topic for this week, Kristen, I'm going to take you from the depths of your dreamscape
Okay.
to the depths of the ocean.
Okay.
Kristen, this week, I bring to you the tale of the Kraken.
Fish. Oh, cool.
Yeah. What do you think you know, before I say anything, about the Kraken?
What do I think I know? Well, I think that it's a gigantic octopus below the sea. Is that also a Lovecraft thing? It's from some sort of literature.
I mean, it's tied into a few things. It's like, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Moby Dick, there's a mention.
Yeah.
It does feel similar to, like, Cthulhu from H.P. Lovecraft.
Right.
Yeah.
So what else do I know? That's all I know. It's a giant octopus underneath the sea that you got to watch out for.
How big are you thinking?
Oh, I don't even know. I'm terrible at saying, lengths of things or whatever. I don't know, like really, really big. Like bigger than a ship.
Well, you are correct. So you nailed it right on the head.
Great.
Maybe it's not necessarily exactly bigger than a ship, but one of the big things about the Kraken is that it's said to be able to take down an entire ship.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen pictures of a ship like inside the tentacle of a Kraken.
Yeah. Oh, some of the artwork is amazing.
Yeah.
I really enjoy... Because, like, we're talking about ships in terms of, like, the Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria, like big wooden boats with big white billowing sails, pirate ship style.
Yeah.
And, these drawings of a sort of octopus-type monster wrapping its tentacles around, breaking the masts with its tentacles to drag the ship down.
Oh, I don't like things that big. It's too scary.
To the base of the ocean.
Yeah.
And so this is something that's gone back, like, seemingly forever. Some rumor of a gigantic... tentacled monster under the surface of the ocean that's going to gobble you up, eat your ship.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's big enough that it appears as if it's a land mass.
Ooh. I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
You might be piloting your ship around and be like, land ahoy! And as you get closer and closer, bloop, it disappears from the horizon and sinks back beneath the surface.
Awesome. That reminds me...
actually the Kraken.
That reminds me of when we would drive to Massachusetts where our grandparents lived from Connecticut where we grew up. There were these areas on the side of the highway that were just like on every, most highways, I guess, or pretty highways, like grassy knolls or just be like these kind of hills, like not big hills whatsoever. And I would imagine that there were dinosaurs sleeping under those hills and that rise was the dinosaur's body. And I would imagine it just like wake up and coming up out of the grass and us being like, ah! We thought that was just a hill. It was a dinosaur under like a thin layer of grass.
That's really weird.
I know.
That's cool. I like that
I
a
also
lot.
used to always imagine the Verrazano Bridge, like the two, I don't know what you call it, like beams coming down from a bridge. I always thought of those as like tusks from like a gigantic elephant.
Yeah, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I used to look out the side of the window and imagine Sonic the Hedgehog running alongside the car at exactly our speed and, like, you know, looking at me and giving me a wink. The blue blur himself.
Where's Tails?
He's you know, piloting behind him. But then, you know, like Sonic the Hedgehog, he would like grind on the rail with his shoes, and like he would run up those things on the
That's so
Verrazano
cute.
Bridge and slide down the other side. It was so cool. He's the fastest thing alive.
That's so cute.
Anyway,
Yeah.
So the ocean.
Yes.
I'm always fascinated by like, the deep, the fact that we do not know what is down there, that we've never explored the absolute.
It's
depths
the
of
other space.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's the down space.
Yeah.
We've got the stars above. We've got the seas below.
Yeah.
And
Really is crazy.
Yeah, we've gone to our friend Mike Costa's lake house many times, where I have then sat on the dock like an old man, staring out at the water and just kind of being like, who knows what is down there?
It is crazy. This is like me saying I love wind going through trees.
Yeah.
I love looking at water.
Love looking at water.
I love looking
I'm with
at water.
you. It's simultaneously peaceful and deeply mysterious to me. Because on the one hand, I'm like, if the surface is still, beautiful. If the wind is blowing it and making little waves,
oh, so nice.
peaceful, lovely, love it. However, I also can't escape that sinking feeling that at the bottom of the lake, at the bottom of the ocean, there are bodies.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Countless bodies.
All
People
kinds of
who
stuff.
have drowned, been dragged down, bodies that have been dumped that are just waiting to be found.
Right. Did I say this on the show? I don't think I did 'cause it's so stupid. I told you about it. The sea graves of New York that I tried to trick Ryan into believing.
No. Maybe.
so-
yeah.
So my husband Ryan and I were in the city, New York City, and we were on the High Line, and I don't know what it was, but there's a body of water that you could see, and it had all of these things sticking up out of the water. Like it almost looked like there's probably a purpose and name for them. I don't know what they are. Almost as though there had been a bridge there, and that they took off the top of the bridge. Now there are just sticks coming out of the water that aren't supporting anything.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't know why I did, but I was like, "Oh man, do you see that?" And Ryan was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Those are the famous graves of the New York Bay." I think that's what I said. I actually had this in my notes in my phone. I just deleted it yesterday when I was like clearing space. But anyway, I was like, "Oh, it's the famous graves in New York Bay over there." And he was like, "What? Really?" And I was like, "Yeah, all of those are sticking out." To signify all of the people who are buried over there. And he was like, how do you bury people in the ocean? And then I cracked. He was like, how do you bury them
You
there?
can bury people in the ocean.
Not really.
Why not?
Bury them? How do you dig up a grave? Those are the famous graves of the New York Bay?
I mean, first of all, I like the phrase, those are the famous graves of the New York Bay, even though it doesn't make sense. What's the New York Bay?
I don't know.
Probably countless bays, right? B-A-E.
Obviously, I just pulled it out of my butt.
But like, yeah, you could either dig or you could like weigh down a body. Why not?
No, but not. You couldn't really dig. Like, that'd be very tough.
Yeah, and they'd probably be slopped up.
Yeah, it doesn't. Those aren't grave sites in the ocean.
Well.
But anyway, he said that. It seemed like I kind of had him for 1 second, and then he said that, and then I just started laughing.
Yeah.
He was just like, "All right."
It all fell apart.
Yeah.
But yeah, so back to the Kraken itself.
Yes.
Because like usually the thing that does freak me out is thinking about all the human stuff that ends up at the bottom of a body of water. Whether it's, you know, like goofball stuff like a kid's bike that they just like, you know, it rolled down a hill, landed in the water and bit by bit made its way down, to like a car with 2 corpses sitting in the front seats.
Yeah.
You know? But the animal
I feel like
stuff,
you have a very aquarium accessory view of what's going on at the bottom of the sea.
Yeah.
You know, those things you can buy at the pet store to put in there.
Yeah. You're right. But like still, like that's shopping.
No,
carts.
I mean that's awesome.
Yeah, I don't think I'm wrong.
No, I don't
there's
either.
Probably more interesting stuff down there too. But like, I bet there are plenty of places where exactly those things are at the bottom. But like the animals of the ocean. So I watched a video the other day of a goblin shark going to bite someone.
Oh my god.
And like, if you think about like what a shark's face looks like Jaws.
Yeah.
It goes to bite you, and it means that it just has to like swim up to you to get you. A goblin shark, if I talking
A
about
goblin shark.
it was goblin for
Yeah.
sure. It's almost more like Alien. Remember, like Alien, it can like rocket its face toward you, like it can send a set of teeth out at you. Its body's over here, and
its
pushes.
mouth goes there.
It was like that, and it was horrific, absolutely horrific.
What do you mean? It had like a second mouth, like an alien?
Still the one mouth, but it's like its mouth can be projected away from its body.
Ugh.
Yeah, like its mouth can reach toward you, even though its body is over there. Yeah.
Oh my god.
You know, a matter of like, let's call it 4 inches.
No, I know, but still.
Pretty surprising stuff. All the stuff in the ocean
Oh, it's crazy.
are alien
Yes.
monsters.
Even the plant life, like in
Yeah.
an amazing way, I think it's beautiful. But like the same way I feel about crystals, where I'm like, the earth made this.
Yeah.
This just exists. I feel that way about like the things that you see when people post things about like scuba diving and everything, like all the
Yeah.
colorful anemones and all that kind of stuff. It just boggles my mind that the earth, they just exist.
Just
they
totally
just made
natural.
these things.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
It's beautiful, but
That's what I'm saying. They're
it's
both
a
beautiful.
freak show.
Yeah.
So the Kraken is basically, we talked about the octopus and how the octopus might have its origins out in the cosmos.
Yeah.
Check out a previous Guide to the Unknown
Yes.
for the full explanation of that. The Kraken is of that sort of family, but it's not explicitly an octopus. It seems like its origin more lies in the giant squid.
Okay.
So that's part of the reason why there are stories of the Kraken going back so far.
Yeah.
Is because people have actually seen this animal.
Yeah.
The giant squid is a real animal that can grow to be like 40 to 50 feet in length,
Oh my god.
which is insane.
This is still humongous, but is that from tip of extended tentacle to head?
Yes.
Yeah. That's
it's like
massive.
if you
Yeah.
ignored the tentacles, it would be something around the lines of like the body is like 15 feet.
That's still crazy.
Which means that the tentacles are like 30 feet long.
Ew, I don't like that.
Sickeningly,
I prefer for the body to be
disturbingly-
longer.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Ugh.
Real wild
That's
stuff.
insane.
Yeah. So some of the stories about the Kraken, it goes by many names, like, you know, a lot of monsters
Yeah.
do. And there are other sort of legends that seem like they correspond with the Kraken legend that I'm going to, you know what, why don't I just tell you about them right now?
Please do.
Because it seems like bits of their lore then became bits of the Kraken lore, or it seems like there may just be crossover where people called it this, but it was what we would call the Kraken.
Yeah.
The first one that I'm going to tell you about then is a giant fish called Hafgufa.
Okay.
Hafgufa. Hafgufa. All this stuff, by the way, is around like Greenland and
Okay.
like that sort of Nordic
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Ooh, we're
region.
having a Nordic double dip
Yeah,
between
it's-
last week and this week.
True. So, according
the ocean.
to a sort of famous saga, this is a fictional story, but Hafgufa was the mother of all sea monsters. It fed on whales, ships, men, and anything it could catch. It was said to live underwater, and when the tide was low at night, her nose and head would rise out of the water. The only physical description provided in the saga is the nose sticking out of the water, which was mistaken for 2 massive rocks rising from the sea.
That's awesome.
So believing that it's a part of, you know,
Yeah.
some sort of like a landmass or...
You're just like, oh, I better navigate around this.
Yeah, it turns out that it's a scary animal.
Yeah.
Here we go. There was a bit of a story that I'm going to read you about somebody who, you know, it's part of that story.
Yeah.
Of encountering
Yeah.
that monster.
Hafgufa. That reminds me of Fabluka.
Yeah,
From,
Hafgufa.
Yeah. Yeah. From Young
The
Frankenstein.
horse's whinny. So yeah, this is here we go. This is part of a story.
Okay.
It is the nature of this creature to swallow men and ships, and even whales and everything else within reach. It's what?
It's a funny sentence. It is the nature of this creature to swallow men and ships, and even whales, and everything else within
True, yeah.
reach.
It stays submerged for days, then rears its head and nostrils above the surface, and stays that way at least until the change of tide.
Same.
Now, that sound we just sailed through was the space between its jaws, and its nostrils and lower jaw were those rocks that appeared in the sea, while the Lingbacher was the island we saw sinking down. The Lingbacher is the other monster that may have Kraken lore. It's basically a
Okay.
giant whale.
Cool.
Yeah. However, Ogmund Tusuk has sent these creatures to you, by means of his magic to cause the death of you and all your men.
More about Ogmund Tusuk, please. What's the deal with him? Do you know?
A little bit. Ogmund Tusuk seems to be like a sort of like a mythological person.
Okay.
Like
a bad guy?
not necessarily a bad guy, almost like a god in a kind of way where like he might know Thor, that kind of thing.
Cool.
I'm not saying he literally knows Thor, but like that's the idea is that
He's the kind of guy who would.
yes, he's
Yeah.
Ogmund Tusuk. He
Right.
is in charge of these things, you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So he's not good, he's not bad, but
He simply is.
he just simply is. And Ogmund Tusuk has sent these creatures to you by means of his magic to cause the death of you and all your men.
awesome.
Yeah. He thought more men would have gone the same way as those that had already drowned, and he expected that Hafgufa would have swallowed us all. Today I sailed through its mouth because I knew that it had recently surfaced, meaning that it would be surfaced for a while.
Right,
I'm not
right.
at risk to be gobbled up and dragged back
Right,
down.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So Hafgufa is also said to be like covered in a fine bed of heather. So it especially looks like an island, almost like your idea of the dinosaurs lying under
Yeah.
the grass.
Yeah.
So it's even more sort of hidden,
Yeah, camouflaged.
camouflaged. Yeah. So anyway, the Kraken, the idea of the Kraken, like the name of the Kraken,
Yeah.
comes from Norwegian, where it's the definite form of crake, a word designating an unhealthy animal or
Ooh.
something twisted.
Ooh. That's cool.
And the German krake, which means octopus, but
perfect.
can also refer to now the legendary Kraken.
Boy, that was a good coincidence as far as
Kraka.
words, right?
Yeah,
There's
true.
something called crake that's an unhealthy, messed up animal. And then
Yeah.
there's a, well, I just realized that this is a made up thing, so it's probably not a coincidence.
No, that's probably not a coincidence.
Go ahead. Okay.
But like, I also like that. I don't know if it's unhealthy and twisted, meaning like it's an evil
Right.
animal. Like we've talked about this with Jurassic Park, where it's
Yeah.
like I know that we want to be like, you know, the Indoraptor's a scary monster, but it's like it's an animal.
I hate that.
It's doing things that animals do.
It drives me nuts. I
Yeah.
hate that about Jurassic Park.
Yeah. So like I don't know if it's like this is a twisted, messed up animal, as in this
Yeah.
is an evil monster of the deep,
Right.
Or it's just like this is a highly unusual
Right.
creature. It's twisted,
Right.
That something could be this large.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not right in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
It's unnatural.
And for sure, in a lot of artwork, if you look up the Kraken, you're going to see that it looks exclusively like an octopus, basically. I mean, you know what? I have seen some squid stuff.
Yeah.
But like, you'll see amazing artwork. I highly advise everybody look up these images of like the Kraken twisting its tentacles around a ship. It's really
Yeah.
interesting looking, really wild.
Yeah.
And especially like to imagine yourself in that place and time where you might believe that this could exist.
Oh my God.
And yet you still have to get on a ship.
Right. Right. That's horrifying.
You would spend every minute of every day staring out in the horizon.
Oh, completely.
Like watching the fog over the water, hoping you might get a glimpse of the Kraken so that you can avoid it.
Yes,
Yeah.
looking at every actual thing that's natural that's peeking up out of the water and thinking that that's the Kraken.
Yeah.
Like I'd be freaked out all the time.
Yeah.
Quick aside, what is the difference between an octopus and a squid? I don't remember.
They're just two different animals.
Okay. Well, but they look very similar, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a difference in the number of tentacles. I think there's
Right.
a difference in the way that their brains operate.
Okay, but they basically
look
kind of look the
different.
same?
Yeah, I mean, if an alien landed on this planet and saw a cat and a dog, they might be like, so, these are the same thing.
Okay.
Obviously, right?
So they're that different. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we know that they're totally
Yeah.
separated. So yeah, they're just different animals, very
Yeah.
similar, like same class.
Yeah.
So my favorite pop culture representation of the Kraken.
Is Liam Neeson saying release the Kraken?
What does he say?
From that movie, Kraken. I don't
that
think it's
what
called Kraken.
Oh yeah, was that like Gods and Monsters, like something?
Yeah, I don't remember what it's called.
Release the Kraken.
Release the Kraken.
Oh God, I
Yeah.
forgot about that.
I didn't see it. I just remember it from the commercial.
Yeah, I avoided that movie. But
it's called.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Uh-huh.
I
right.
actually really enjoyed the way that they handled the Kraken in the second of that film franchise, Dead Man's Chest. Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow he's cursed with the black spot. Mm-hmm. Davy Jones, who himself is like an octopus man, he has octopus tentacles instead of a pirate's beard.
Yeah.
Really awesome character design. Some of the
Yeah,
best
it's
modern
awesome.
CGI. Like he looks real.
Yes.
And it's just Bill Nighy wearing, like reflective dots on his face so they can CGI on him later. There's no practical effect, and it looks so amazing.
It's really good. I think that was the first time I'd ever seen HD. We were at the Sony store, and they were playing that. I think it was with the Tentacle Man, whatever his name is. And I remember that it was you and me, and I remember just being like, "Oh, it's too real. I don't like it."
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I distinctly remember that. It was, I think we were in Sears, actually.
Maybe.
Because they had display TVs, and I don't know if it was like the refresh rate on the screen plus the HD or something, but I was like, this appears to be moving too fast.
Right. Yes.
It looks too realistic. It's bugging my eyes out.
Yeah, I remember it looked too good simultaneously, and it reminded me of like shows on the BBC used to be, where something just felt off about the way it was moving. I was just like,
too smoothly.
I'm very disoriented right now. Yeah.
So in that movie, Davy Jones is owed something by Jack Sparrow, and Jack Sparrow won't pay up.
Yeah.
So he curses Jack Sparrow with the black spot on his hand, and what that does, it looks like a rot on his palm.
Yeah.
That is now going to call the Kraken to him wherever he is. So he has to avoid going on the ocean.
Yeah.
Because the Kraken can get him there, can't get to him on land, obviously. And we're treated to a couple of scenes of people on a boat where like the wind is blowing and it's eerily quiet.
Yeah.
And then they almost just like the camera from far away shows the ship just snap, crunch into like a little ball, almost like snapped in half, folded in half, and quickly dragged beneath the surface of the water.
The quickly thing is freaky.
Oh yeah. And you spend the entire movie freaking out about, we're going to see this monster, we're going to see this Kraken.
Yeah.
And eventually I'm going to spoil this movie now. So if you haven't seen Pirates of the Caribbean 2, Dead Man's Chest, and you've been holding off on seeing it for some unknown future, get out. Most people hate this franchise now, but I really, really enjoyed at least the first couple movies.
Yeah, I like the first two or whatever,
So Johnny Depp has decided that he is done running away. He's going to let his friends get away, get in boats to paddle off to a little island, and he's going to stay on the ship and let the Kraken... risk getting eaten by the Kraken so his friends can get away.
Yes.
And there's an amazing moment in that movie where, what's her name? It's not Natalie Portman. Keira Knightley. She handcuffs him to the mast because she's like, I know you'd run away. I know that it would still come to chase you, and I know that you'd find another excuse to run.
Yeah.
So she handcuffs him to the mast of the ship. And you see the tentacles creeping up the ship behind him and slowly starting to envelop around the ship as he is now frantically trying to get his hand out of this cuff.
Yeah.
And it's not played for laughs. It is not played as a fun, light, exciting moment. It is played as a moment of like absolute dread.
Yeah.
This
like
person is doomed.
Horror movie.
Yeah. He is about to die.
Yeah.
And it's almost pathetic to watch him try to wiggle away because we know he's not going to get away.
Yeah.
And I thought for sure, as a viewer, I thought that the way he was going to end up getting out of that cuff was going to be that he would chop his hand off.
Oh. And then have like a pirate hook.
He'd have a pirate hook. Yeah. And then I was, they'd have like a bunch of because he's all weird with his hands and wibbly wobbly. I pictured in the third movie, however they'd explain that he's returned, he'd be doing stuff with his hands and then look and be like, oh, right, I have a hook. And be like... sensitive about it. Something. They could do a lot of physical comedy with that.
Is he just going to place all those rings he wears on the hook?
Yeah. Like, I'm fine with that. And then watch him, like, put his arm back down and they slip off his hook and he's annoyed. Because he can't, like, I feel like that has a lot of...
There's a lot of potential.
They did not do that. He gets his hand out of the cuff, but it's too late. He turns around and now the Kraken, who they've been fighting, is taking this apparently seriously, and it's brought its disgusting Kraken mouth up the side of the ship. And very action movie-ish, roars at him, and it has like multiple rows of teeth. It's disgusting.
I don't like multiple rows of teeth.
And Jack Sparrow, now realizing that there's really truly nothing to do. You cannot run. It is over. He's not going to go down without a fight. So he readies his sword and smiles at sort of the adventure, the like grandiose way he gets to go out, and rushes forward to at least stab the monster as it crushes around him, eats him, and then from far away we see Keira Knightley paddling away, watching the ship as it goes down.
Oh.
And that's the end. And I thought it was a really excellent...
It sounds sweet.
Engaging moment. It was exciting, and it felt like there was something significant at stake here. And that was it's an animal. There's no reasoning with
Yeah.
it, but it's also somehow like a demon animal that can be like sicked on you, like a feral dog or something.
Right.
Like, it's coming for
it
you,
has
and
malintent.
it will
toward
not
you.
stop.
Right.
And then
Let's say I've seen this, but I don't remember it. How does he get out of this one?
so there's a lot of sloppy junk, I think, in the third movie that's a little disappointing. Johnny Depp is now in Davy Jones' locker.
Okay.
Which is, the only things I could have told you about pirate lore before this series was that Davy Jones' locker is the afterlife or something.
Right.
For
and they
him,
like doubloons.
they love doubloons.
Yeah.
For him, it's like a place where he's tortured. It's like his hell.
Yeah.
He's on his ship still, but they're like it's played funny and creepy, which almost works, but doesn't quite. He's playing every deckhand. So there are about 50 Johnny Depps running around this ship, scrubbing the poop deck, raising the sails and stuff, and then Captain Jack Sparrow, which appears to be the real heart of, like, there are 50 of him, but this is the real one of him. One of them runs up to him and is like, "I'm sorry, Captain, we're not able to get out of here." And he
Johnny
goes,
Depp.
"We should abandon ship. We're not going to get out." And Jack Sparrow, who we view as being like the real
real
Jack
one,
Sparrow, runs a knife through himself, the
other
weak
guy.
one, and leans forward and whispers in his ear, "It's that kind of thinking that got us into this mess." And it's actually kind of dreadful and dark, like he's tortured.
Yeah.
Anyway, for some reason, he's able to just sail off that island,
Okay.
and he's back in the real world. Don't like
like
it.
that's a physical island that he just had to come back from when it was really far away.
Yes.
All right. Well,
I
they
don't
needed to
quite
get him
like
back.
that.
Yeah.
It's beneath the surface of the ocean. There is all this like hijinks of like we need to sink below the water as the sun sets, and then the world turns upside down. So it is presented as
Okay.
metaphysical.
Yeah.
But it is also presented as physical.
Yeah.
You just have to go there.
Right.
You just have to know how to get there, and there's a wacky way to get there. But once
Okay.
you get there, it's all good. So
yeah.
anyway,
And whatever. They just needed to get him back somehow.
they see the Kraken one last time in that movie, and it's played for a very interesting beat that is almost a shame to throw it away. The Kraken's been killed. Davy Jones is now he's forced to do the bidding of like this government guy, and one of the stipulations is that he must kill his monster.
Yeah.
because he's the only one that can control it.
Right.
So if I'm controlling you, but
Right.
you control this horrible monster, that can't be allowed to stand. So
Yeah.
Davy Jones, you must kill your pet. You must kill the Kraken.
Yeah.
So Johnny Depp sees the Kraken washed up on a beach dead. And he and Captain Barbossa, his like sort of frenemy guy,
Jeffrey Rush.
Yep, walk up, and Jack Sparrow's looking in the eye of the Kraken, the dead eye of the Kraken, which has his own reflection in it. It's a big eye. And they have a moment where they're talking about how they're going to end up like this, how there's nowhere else to run, and how we all go sometime. And Jack Sparrow kind of refuses.
Yeah.
And it's not played as like heroically.
You're like, no, they'll never take me down. Yeah.
Yeah, not like that. He's like, well, but we could get away with it, right? And it's almost as if he's deluded himself.
Yeah.
And you kind of want to live in that delusion with him because
Yeah.
it's so fun to be on the high seas.
Yeah.
So anyway, I feel like that's the only time that I've seen the Kraken used as what?
People walking by your window, which you've talked about on this before.
Oh, yeah, that'll happen.
Yeah.
But like I feel like they used the Kraken to mean something. They used it as a big monster for sure.
Yeah.
And as an action set piece because it's a big scary creature.
Right.
But I also feel like in that series they found a way to say something via the Kraken and really give it a sort of like purpose as a character in a way.
Yeah. What were they saying?
I think that they were talking about like there's a whole thing in that series about how we've talked about it on this show a little bit, the idea of filling in the details of something that would otherwise be mysterious. It's kind of nice to let the mystery live.
Oh, okay. I see.
In the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, it's that there's literally a moment where Johnny Depp's an explorer, right? He's a pirate. He's going out there and he's seeing what he can find and doing whatever the hell he wants. The government is going, all the parts of the map have been filled in.
Yeah.
There is nothing left to discover.
Yeah, for you to
Jack
right.
Sparrow. Like,
right. So this is something. Yeah.
Yeah.
He discovered something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that.
That's
I
cool.
find it very interesting.
That makes me want to watch those movies again.
Yeah, I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
There are, I think that 1, 2, and 3 have something they're saying. I think 4 and 5 are unfortunate.
There are 5. Damn.
Yeah, there are 5. They might sometimes have cool imagery, which I think is true. But by and large, I think that they lost the sort of heart.
Yeah.
There's a lot about you can't avoid progress in 1, 2, and 3. This is the end of the pirate era.
Yeah.
The end of everything being...
that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
The end of it, of anybody being able to abide these lawless people floating around. Like, no.
It's like Johnny Depp's own real life.
Yeah, kind of. Sure. But it also, like, it plays out time and time again. Like, the internet has used to be, like, much more of a Wild West than it is now. Like, we've, bit by bit, now it's like, pay extra to get Netflix.
Yeah.
Like, eventually some sort of law and order creeps up.
Yeah.
And so Pirates of the Caribbean, I think, is about trying to postpone the inevitable. And it's very interesting to me. Yeah.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever saw the third one. I'm not totally sure.
It's definitely weaker.
Yeah.
It's much weaker.
I might have. I don't know.
It was at an interesting time in movies where I feel like constantly we were making a first movie that was great and being like, cool, 2 and 3 are greenlit. Make them simultaneously back to back.
Yes.
And it usually ended up being that one of those two was sub.
Yes, that was a total thing.
Yeah, below the level of quality that anyone
below sea
wanted.
level.
Yeah. So I'll finish out with one final bit of actual lore about
Kraken fact?
The Kraken, Kraken fact. Which I think is kind of interesting because we've talked about many times how people will witness real phenomenon that's perfectly explainable by the laws of science.
Yeah.
And we come up with some fantastic explanation. It's will-o'-the-wisps. It's something that lures you into a bog. It's not just gas igniting on the moors. Some traits of the Kraken: eating up ships, causing huge waves, islands disappearing from the surface of the water.
Yeah.
Some traits of the Kraken resemble undersea volcanic activity occurring in the Iceland region, including bubbles of water, sudden dangerous currents, and appearances of new little islands and stuff.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
Perfectly reasonable explanations, and somebody looked, and it's completely understandable why you would go, there's a creature that did that.
Back at that time, especially, like, you rationalize it somehow. Man, Iceland sounds wild.
Yeah, it does.
They really do have a landscape that has, like, a lot of, like, danger around the corner.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. It's cool. But so there you have it. That's everything that I was personally interested in the Kraken. There are other things. I left out a good amount, I think, about the Kraken here.
That's all right.
But that's the news that's fit to print.
Also, just so you guys know, since I mentioned it before, Liam Neeson says, release the Kraken in Clash of the Titans from 2010.
Yes.
Yes.
That's right. Cool. I bet that's really great, too.
It seems not to be from just a 2-second glance at the Google feedback of it. Yeah.
Interesting.
So great, guys.
Well, there you go.
That's it. Thanks for spending time with us. If you want to spend more time with us online, you can find us at GTTUpod all over social media. So that's our handle on Instagram, Twitter, and on Facebook. You can do facebook.com/GTTUpod. I post things there pretty much every day, like anything that's like spooky or interesting, I throw up there. So it might be fun for you to follow. And we also have a private Facebook group that you can find by searching Guide to the Unknown podcast in Facebook, where like a whole bunch of people who also like spooky stuff just like chatting throughout the week. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. We get like a couple new people every day, basically.
Yeah.
So the conversation is ongoing there.
On and popping.
You can also go check out our Patreon account if you'd like to donate to Guide to the Unknown.
That's right, that'd be really great.
You can look up Guide to the Unknown in your Patreon app or go to patreon.com/GTTUpod. For all links to all these places, go to talkbomb.com/GTTUpod. And beyond that, if you want to talk to Kristen or myself, we're also on the internet as our own individual people.
That's right. I'm at Chillin' Kristen on Instagram.
I am at Haunted Sponge.
And also, if you could leave us a review on whatever podcast app you use, that'd be very, very awesome and appreciated, because that like bumps it up in the ranks so other people can stumble upon it. So that'd be really awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you in advance.
Release that Kraken.
That's right.
How about that?
The Kraken of your opinions. Let them be heard.
Yeah.
As long as they're good.
Unleash.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of Guide to the Unknown. We will be back next week to shed more light on the shadows in the corner. Dissipate that Hat Man.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't dissipate. He's solid.
No, make him float through the door.
Yeah.
Get out of here, Hat Man.
Come on.
So thank you all for stopping by. We'll see you next time. Until then, we must travel.
Back to the netherworld go we. Good night.